that's, that's where I feel the world is changing right now.
Yeah.
Since the election of Trump, is that freedom of speech is coming back, and it is okay to speak out and say how you feel about things.
Yeah.
And you may be right and you may be wrong, but your right to say it is so very important, because as soon as we lose that, we start falling down a very slippery slope to an authoritarian or, type life. And none of us want that
Yeah.
from either side.
Yeah. How do you feel about the stances that you take as a musician in your world? Do you feel like you get cancelled a lot and you lose gigs? And
Oh, goodness me. Where do I begin? A group that I sung with at the beginning of all this, when it actually happened, person I'd known for 30 years, actually. I lost a couple of friends of 30 years, but one of them was a musician I'd played with, and he removed the songs that we did from Spotify, said he didn't want to be associated with me, that me going and singing with Jason Kerrison at the protest in Wellington was an act of sedition.
wow, that's crazy, huh?
Yeah, and removed our work from Spotify. So I really did feel that cancelling, and Jason did as well.
Yeah.
And so we knew each other. So it was, there was a few of us as musicians that Jesse Wild was another one locally here with a recording studio in Auckland, that we kind of banded together, the musicians that stood for bodily autonomy and our right to choose medical treatment. We came together, but there was definitely cancelling, and there still is cancelling from the other side. There still are people that don't talk to me anymore because of my stance, but you know.
I talked to Hayley Mary from the Jezebels in Melbourne.
Oh,
Have you heard of her?
yes.
She's got cancelled.
Ah, and she's one of us.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So I've got a few Australian musicians as well that are on our side.
Yeah, she came on my show and we ended up talking for 5 hours.
Wow.
And she basically, what she did was she took a stance against some of the censorship bills going in the Australian Parliament.
They've had some big ones.
Yep. And what she did was she expressed her concerns on Instagram, but she wore a MAGA hat while doing that. So she kind of like, she talks about self-cancellation, this idea that I've had enough of hiding behind a mask and, worrying about what the people in the industry think about me. I'm going to come out. And obviously she gets cancelled. The band Jezebels, they distance themselves from her and all that stuff.
So she's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
because they were pretty big.
Yeah, it's interesting, this whole cancel culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
And especially in a place like the music scene, you can find a lot of people being very sort of liberals in many ways. I mean, I'm a liberal, but I'm a classical liberal.
Well, I was a classical left person, actually.
Yeah.
I was a Labour voter.
Oh,
so, and I came from a Labour voting family, and a lot of us are like that, where we came from a left place, but the left left us, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So, now it's like, Trump, it's like it is the working man, it is the Latinos, it is the, black woman, it is like he's got all these votes that have come up in those areas because the left no longer represents the working man. When I grew up, my father was Labour voting and Labour was for the working man. And that's no longer the case.
No.
Now they abuse the working man, like take this injection or you're going to lose your job even though you've been here 20 years and you're our best member of staff, you're gone. That is just, and where were the unions? Nowhere. Siding with the government against their own workers. Horrendous.
And they still haven't learned their lesson.
No.
Jacinda's just doing a new memoir, a different kind of power,
Oh.
Still trying to sell this whole idea that, left has to transform and be different and push for censorship and mandates. And
I mean, for me, I just totally, I see her face come up on my Twitter and I have to go past it. It actually, her face triggers me. Like, I have a vaccine-injured son, which we'll talk about, during this chat.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like...
Her face triggers a lot of people, just like a lot of Jews get triggered by Hitler. It's just how she's got.
Yeah.
It's got to that point.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's
I
funny,
know.
actually.
But it is. And you have to keep laughing and you have to keep positive throughout it. Otherwise, it would drag you down, you know.
Yeah,
And, you know, I mean, that's the thing. And, yeah, and then it was sort of strange because I was standing up for this and then I was trying to talk my kids out of it while it was all happening with the vaccine, and my son took it because he didn't want to lose his job and he ended up being one of those that are injured. So it only compounded where I stood. Now I'm, as people refer to me, as the angry mama bear. And, you know, so everything I do around pushing back against the narrative is for my son and for those that are injured and for people like Rory Nairn, who I've become close to his parents now, got to know them better through this process. They lost their 26-year-old. Mine's still alive at this point, you know.
Yeah, I think, you start a big problem when you start ignoring people who are injured and you don't listen to them and you exclude them and they become this very angry group.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke to Linda Warden on my show. Her group ends at Health Forum, 60,000 people. You can't simply go, well, these guys are lying and they're spreading misinformation and there is no such thing as vaccine side effects and injury. I think you're starting a big problem when you start doing that, you know, any country. And then, you know, her group getting cancelled by Facebook is just disappearing on the face of the earth. And Mark Zuckerberg coming out on Joe Rogan saying, well, you know, we actually did do that, you know.
Yeah.
If anybody said vaccine had side effects, then you're gone.
What got me on Joe Rogan watching that was him saying that the US government, and that included our government too, by the way, because we had DART and we had various organisations that were taking anybody that was vaccine injured was being taken down, and anybody like Linda, who, as far as I'm concerned, deserves a Nobel Peace Prize or New Zealander of the Year, because she has taken the weight of looking after thousands and thousands of injured New Zealanders. We're talking people like my son, loads of them, with myocarditis, pericarditis, ongoing sick, people with neurological conditions, and they're being cancelled by the health system, which is in a mess, and Linda is picking up the pieces with NZDSOS and trying to help these people. And so now I feel that Zuckerberg has come out. Now it's like, okay, so you were saying the government made you take down all of the vaccine injury stories. We want to see a list of those people whose stories were taken down, please, in New Zealand. That's my next sort of thing, is I'm zoning in on DART and with OIAs, and I want to know, you know, I want to see the correspondence they sent Facebook and who they told to take down. Now, I know some people like Chantel Baker have got some of that information through OIAs where they'd named her as one of the people they were trying to silence because she was just this wonderful little chick down at the protest with her camera on, capturing what was really happening, not what the mainstream media were filming from level 2 of Parliament, looking down, going, all these scummy, terrible people at the protest. And it was seeing that on the media, seeing the lies. I mean, the first people I met when I walked into the protest was 6 Air New Zealand pilots, 2 internationals and 3 Q300 captains who were there at the protest. The next people I met were cardiac nurses that were in the health tent. You know, the whole place was full of qualified, highly qualified, almost like when you talk to people in the medical system, and I know why the medical system has had it now, because most of those people that walked away, they weren't the lower nurse, they were the ward sister who'd been there for 30 years, or the pilot that had been flying for Air New Zealand for 25 years, or, you know, they were just the best of the best. And I guess they were critical thinkers and went, wait a minute, this has not had any long-term testing, I'm not going to accept it. And they lost their jobs for that. And the protest was full of great people from all walks of life. It wasn't this, what do we call it? The river of filth. Yeah, we weren't the river of filth.
Yeah, and that's well captured in that documentary, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a new one coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I had a really good chat with the filmmakers of that documentary. Was
Yeah.
it River of Freedom?
Yeah, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gabriel. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Galen, sorry. Yeah.
Galen. Yeah, it's a good film. It's a
Yeah.
great film, and it really shows this whole weird time that we all lived through. It was bizarre, and for me personally, I'd lived most of my life having nothing to do with government, and then all of a sudden I had government all over my business. I couldn't run it. I couldn't fly here to there. I had to be vaccinated. I had to wear a mask. That got me very angry because, I have a very strong constitution, and freedom means a lot to me. I moved to New Zealand, living in a country with a lot of authoritarian regime.
Right.
And
You knew
coming
what it looked
here,
like.
and people who defend freedom the most are people who lived in a non-democratic system.
Yeah.
They understand, they get it.
Yeah.
And so I felt that this is all bizarre. What's going on here? How did we end up here? Right?
Yeah.
That there is a culture of wokeness and movement that is it's deliberately crafted to influence legislation and power and governments from globalists, the World Health Organizations, World Economic Forums. It's infiltrated to a point where these people deliberately wanted power to do exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Exactly what they did. It was nothing to do with doing the right thing. It was nothing to do with saving people. They wanted to do exactly what they did.
Yeah. And quite interesting, actually, looking at the World Economic Forum. Davos is on at the moment, and they're saying there's far less people there now. They're starting to realise, and I mean, that whole thing of Klaus Schwab, we shall infiltrate the cabinets. We have infiltrated the cabinets, and he actually openly said he was infiltrating the cabinets of New Zealand with Jacinda Ardern, who was a young global leader from the World Economic Forum, with Justin Trudeau, who was another one, and he's openly said it. But of course, the average person that's watching the television doesn't get to see this unelected person who is training global leaders and basically skiting about the fact he's putting them in to push his ideology through governments. And it's just, there's a whole lot of this unelected, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, unelected people that want to control our government. Most New Zealanders don't even realise about the pandemic treaty, which Ashley Bloomfield was the head of, And the thing is, you look at his LinkedIn, he worked for the World Economic Forum, then he became the Director General of Health. Then he went back to the World Economic Forum, that revolving door. And we get that revolving door everywhere. So we get that revolving door in pharmaceutical companies. They work for the pharmaceutical company. They revolving door and into the CDC or MedSafe in New Zealand, into the regulatory bodies, and then they do what they have to do with that medication that's coming out, and then off they go back to a pharmaceutical company again. And that's what Robert F. Kennedy, his junior, has been talking about, is stopping the revolving door, which is, okay, we're putting through that vaccine or that gene therapy. We need that approved, and so we put in our people in the regulatory bodies, get it through, And then what's really disturbing at the moment is we've got the gene therapy bill, and what most New Zealanders don't realise is that gene therapy bill that had its first reading of the House on the 18th of December was voted for and in by the coalition government, including New Zealand First, who voted in favour of it. And Part 2, subsection 7 and 8 are mandates, medical mandates, and emergency use authorisation. And they're looking at enshrining it into law for gene therapies that have not been yet invented. So they can basically go bang, mandates, and they've got it already in law, so they don't even have to go through what they did last time. And most people just don't even realise that that's in that bill. And we've got until 17th of February. So I encourage anybody, just put down a few words. Just say, I don't want mandates in this bill, or just say whatever it is that you want, and you can submit to Parliament, because what we want is mass submissions to that. It's how we managed to get the Therapeutic Products Act dropped. There was 16,000 submissions against it, and in the end they let it go. You have to make it, people sort of say, oh, it doesn't work, and I go, it does, but you have to do it en masse. You have to make it really loud so they know the crowd is bigger that are standing up. And it's really hard because mainstream media just constantly lie to the public. They constantly don't. You never see a vaccine injury story in New Zealand on the mainstream media. I think I've seen one in the whole time. Yet there's 64,000 reports down at MedSafe. And I've got an OIA there that says that 20,559 New Zealanders had serious adverse reactions other than death. So this is people who nearly died. 20,558 people they know about nearly died and were hospitalised, not just ED. To get in that bracket, which my son's not. He went in an ED several times. He's gone in several times. But to get in that bracket of serious, life-threatening, other than death, 20,559 New Zealanders. Yet, when I get the OIA from ACC, 11,400,000 as of 30th of September has been paid out to 1,600 people. But 20,559 nearly died. So is ACC covering those that are vaccine injured? Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not.
And they're not covering them because they don't believe vaccine injury is a thing?
I've just been through this. I've been through a 2-year battle. My son is now cardiologist diagnosed and ACC accepted. And it was a 2-year fight for me with a lawyer alongside and another doctor once we got the cardiologist diagnosis. And what's really disturbing, and I've not finished with this information yet, is when we were in that process, the cardiologist said she couldn't find the ECGs from his hospital appointments. So to backtrack, he was driving his 56-tonne truck down the highway. He'd had the shot and he was driving it 5 hours later, and it sunk in. Like all of a sudden he got chest pains, couldn't breathe, called Healthline. They told him to pull over on State Highway 1 outside of Ashburton. Pulled over, they called the ambulance. He was found draped over the wheel. They dragged him off to Ashburton Hospital. The first thing the doctor said to him when he wheeled in on the hospital gurney and could not breathe, he leaned over him and said, "Don't let this put you off your second shot." Yeah. And this is this 25-year-old kid lying there, can't breathe, heart pounding out of his chest. Coming in an ambulance, that's the first thing that gets said. Well, then the next day they booted him out, said it was anxiety. Booted out my son when he had pericarditis, and I'll go back and tell you why we know he had it. The next day, he's back into emergency in Christchurch because he went back to Christchurch. Then his girlfriend took him through to Cromwell. Next day, Queenstown Hospital. Right? Year later, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, he ends up going, let's go to New Year's Eve down in Geraldine. They were off to something. Gets halfway down the road, goes, guys, I need a hospital. My chest's hurting. Goes back, ends up spending New Year's Eve in hospital, and then 23rd of October 2023 was the last ambulance ride. He got another one from Murchison when he got another attack. So I'm in this ACC, now come forward to the ACC. I'm in there and we're going back for all the data, right? Cardiologists can't find any of the ECGs. I wouldn't, what? So I get this doctor who's a registered doctor but a good person and on side. She goes in and starts going, and we give her permission to go in there. They've lost his ECGs. Oh, they've lost his blood tests. Not one hospital but 3 hospitals have lost his ECGs and his blood tests. Right? So we're like, you do realise that's against the law. You're to keep, they're to keep your test results for 10 years. They're required by law to keep them, right? So I've immediately got a privacy commissioner thing going on. We get to the doctor because we need the referral to the cardiologist. And the doctor goes, this is strange. His cardiology appointment has fallen off the radar. So inside his system, it's showing the cardiology appointment being there, but when he logs onto the hospital system, it's disappeared. So now we've got 3 hospitals that have lost his ECGs and his blood tests, and we've got a 4th hospital that's lost his referral to a cardiologist. And the doctor went, we know what's wrong with him. He was in the ambulance 5 hours after the shot and it's been ongoing. He said, I'm just going to put it through ACC. And so he sent him off to the cardiologist who couldn't find the ECGs. So unfortunately for them, the ambulance ones are kept in a different spot. We found the ambulance one. He had pericarditis the day of the vaccine. And then they found one of the other ones. We've still got some missing. They also showed the signs within the ECGs. And it was interesting. The Christchurch doctor, we've found the ECG, he wrote on Bailey's notes, not myocarditis. So he wrote not myocarditis, but it was barn door pericarditis, okay? So like 3 cardiologists have now looked at those, and I also was pretty close to Peter McCulloch, so I sent my son's ECGs. He goes, this is barn door pericarditis. Like, looking at this ECG, that's definitely pericarditis. So I went and we got a cardiologist on side, luckily, in New Zealand, but they fought us. So I had the cardiologists at some of those previous hospitals. When we finally got to a cardiologist a year and a bit later, they went, you got pericarditis. They put him on colchicine, which is a drug they give for 2 things in New Zealand, gout and pericarditis. So they put him on that. We go and we get into this battle with ACC. What does ACC do? They get their own cardiologist to go over his notes. Of course, his notes don't have any of his ECGs, and they say anxiety, 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 anxiety. So why would all these doctors lie when they're looking at an ECG that is barn door pericarditis? Because they're scared of the medical council. And to me, the medical council are almost the most guilty, because they're the ones that have put the fear of God into these doctors, so much so that they are willing to actually misdiagnose a patient, let that patient walk out of the door with an inflamed heart lining without any medication and call it anxiety. And now I've got him ACC approved and cardiologist approved 3 times over. Now I'm coming for the medical council, and I'm going to come for those doctors that misdiagnosed my son. I'm coming for them through the health commissioner. I'm coming for them through the privacy thing, and I'm going to come through them through the medical council, lay complaints there.
Yeah, and this diagnosis is directly linked to the vaccine shot?
Yeah.
How do you figure that out? How do you...
Well,
How do you know that?
Unfortunately for them, he'd had a car accident a few years before, which showed nice clean heart, like no problems at all. He was completely monitored during that time, and he'd had no heart issues whatsoever. And then he had the vaccine, and he was in an ambulance 4 hours later, and he's been constant since then. Unfortunately, it's not gone away.
So basically, you can make the claim by saying it happened right after taking the vaccine.
Yes. So what the important thing, I think, the lesson that we've learned that I can now pass on to, which is what I'm doing through my socials and through grouping with other vaccine injured, is you've got to go get those tests, because they clearly looked at those tests and lied. They told people they had anxiety when they had a positive ECG, and they may have had positive. My son didn't have positive blood tests, because this is a strange pericarditis and myocarditis. It's not like normal things, but the ECG is pretty good at showing it, apparently. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but there's a certain shape, the ECG has the little waves, and there's a certain shape on the top of each beat that says pericarditis, and there's another shape that it's called ST elevation and PR depression in the ECGs, and there's another shape for myocarditis, so you can tell the difference between the two, which is why it was really funny when we looked at the doctor's report in Christchurch and he said not myocarditis. But it was pericarditis. He just didn't say it, and he let my son out without any anti-inflammatories whatsoever, which is, may have led to him having it so chronically now because, he wasn't prescribed it at the time. Later on we did, and now he's permanently on colchicine, which is not a good drug to be taking. So that's the other thing I did then. It's like I have this saying called buffalo girls go round the outside, around the outside, around the outside. And so I went, pericarditis, colchicine. So I went to Pharmac. You want to see the prescriptions of colchicine. Goes along, gets to 2021 and goes straight up. So then our good friends at NZDSOS, they said, you better ask for it without allopurinol. And I went, right. So because allopurinol is what they give gout people. So they would give them colchicine, which is like the anti-inflammatory part, and the allopurinol would stop I think it's some sort of acid build-up that happens in gout. If you remove those people that are on allopurinol, you've just got people with pericarditis only. So now I've got some really good, strong evidence that's going in every submission. Like you've been prescribing your prescriptions for the drug for pericarditis has gone like that. And it's still going up. And that's because this is not just a reaction and I get better. This is a change in my body that has not changed. It's a mRNA messenger make these spike proteins. In some people's case, it made it and went away. In other people's case, it just keeps making it, and they take off around the body, attack the heart. If they attack the heart muscle, that's myocarditis. If they attack the lining, that's pericarditis. So it's not going away.
Yeah, and is your son, has he tried detoxing the vaccine out of the body with ivermectin and other things?
We haven't done the ivermectin, but he's getting some good success, he feels, with the nattokinase, and we've got the proper one. We've got the proper high dosage from Dr. Peter McCulloch. So we've got it's nattokinase, bromelain, and turmeric, curcumin. So the curcumin, turmeric has anti-inflammatory properties. Bromelain is from pineapples. It's a enzyme from pineapples, and nattokinase is a fermented soybean thing. So.
And are these legally available that doctors can prescribe?
They are natural. And his cardiologist knows he's on it. And I've given his New Zealand cardiologist, Dr. Peter McCulloch's study, because he did a study which is currently in peer review. And there's another Japanese study on nattokinase and its ability it's something to do with the ACE2 receptor, that it affects that, and the spike protein's ability to hurt anything, basically. So you have to take it long term, but they are seeing results with it. So he's getting less and less with that. So we're hoping that we can work something out. We don't know. I mean, the cardiologist there that's dealing with him in New Zealand is, I don't know quite what's happening, but it's an inflammatory thing that's going on from the vaccine. So at least she's accepting that it's the vaccine, and she's been real definitive with my son in front of him and, said, I want you to listen to what I dictate here. I want you to understand that I believe you.
Yeah.
And so she's been really good at that.
Mm-hmm. And, out of all the thousands of vaccine injuries, are there other people with similar symptoms and injuries?
Oh, yeah. Like we've got thousands of people with pericarditis, and this is the interesting thing. Our health system is broken, right? So my son went to the appointment, and He walked in and he was the first in, and they were having it at Nelson Hospital rather than the private clinic. This was the first one when he went in. And he walked out of the clinic and he went, "Oh my gosh, Mum." I said, "What?" He said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "I walked out and the cardiology was the only thing that was there, and the room was full, and there was not one old person and not one fat person." And he said they were all male and all my age, and some were a lot younger, Mum. They were like teens. And so the whole room was filled with young males waiting to see the cardiologist. So I went, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to do an OIA and ask how many people have been admitted to EDs, not diagnosed. I'm not interested in what they diagnose them with because I already know they lie about what people have got to protect their butts. So I want to know the number of people who've come in with chest injury." Well, they wrote me back this thing to Ministry of Health, and it was phenomenal. It was like 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, when the vaccine comes out, before COVID's hit New Zealand, and it goes whack, straight up and keeps going up, right? This is people under 40 who are presenting it at ED in New Zealand, people under 40, and with chest pain as one of their symptoms. Now, you could fall off a roof and put a jab through yourself or something. You know, it's all kinds of chest pain, but I figured that's the only way to get the truth because they lie. So that's actually the only way to get the truth is the people have come in and the ambulance has reported chest pain, or chest pain is one of the things that's actually written when that person came in the door, because there's going to be thousands that came in with chest pain written that are going to be discharged as anxiety. The other thing I've done is I've done an OIA for the number of people with anxiety who called into EDs and got a diagnosis of anxiety. So I'm waiting for that one to come.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So the ED the OIA comes in, and I go, "Oh my gosh," right? And I post it up on X, the wonders of X. 2GB in Sydney, who is the biggest radio show, Ben Fordham, the biggest radio show, spots my OIA. And he goes, "Wow, I'm going to ask New South Wales Health and Queensland Health the same question that this person in New Zealand did." And well, he came back with the same answer. 2021, vaccine comes in, under 40s presenting with at ED departments, skyrockets, right? Same with Queensland Health. So he gets the New South Wales Health guy in on his radio show and says, "Well, what's this?" And the guy goes, "Oh, well, you know, we did have COVID." And he goes, no. COVID wasn't really hitting us then. Like, this is massive. This is 20, 30,000 people more, like, in New South Wales. And he said, "Oh, well, some of them were due to the vaccine." So he managed to squeeze an admittal out of him. So I then take the 2GB thing and I go to Television New Zealand and go, "Well, looky here," you know, like, oh, look, 2GB's covering this, Sydney's biggest breakfast show, and where are you? Well, I got a bite. They write to the Ministry of Health. That afternoon, my inbox is just like Shane Reety, Ministry of Health. "Oh, whoops, we gave you the wrong figures. Oh, there's only 2 to 4 DHBs that were reporting chest pains." Oh, the more accurate way is actually to look at the diagnosis. No, I'm not interested in the diagnosis because you people, you know, because I know people have been diagnosed with anxiety when they had pericarditis. So I know that from personal experience. So anyway, they tried to argue their way out of it. They still, months later, have not given me the response. Television New Zealand dropped it, and no doubt they dropped it because, like, within a half an hour of me being on the phone to that reporter, I had emails in my inbox saying they'd given me the wrong figures. From Shane Reety's office and from there, I thought, "Oh, good, I've got you jumping." And so anyway, so that's what happened there. So they said they were going to come back to me with an explanation. They've still not done it, and we're talking 5-6 months ago, and I still every day, where's my explanation? Where are the real figures? So I'm going in DHB by DHB now on the OIA. So I'm just gonna hound them and hound them and hound them. And then I go round and get the other things like the going to Pharmac and getting the prescriptions of the drug they give, so I've got going round the outside, ACC, getting the figures on ACC, which I'm waiting for the December ones to come because it was up to 11,400,000 as of September that have been paid out. So, it's about generating. It's almost like being a lawyer and putting your evidence together. And sometimes it comes from way over there. That piece of evidence that you wouldn't think was important actually is. So there was that, and then the Ministry of Health sends me this thing. I asked for the number of cases. The number of referrals to cardiologists in New Zealand, and they sent me a log on for Health New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh, that's weird. And I clicked on the link, and then I realised, and they said, oh, can you please peer review these answers? They had sent my own OIA to me, thinking I was working for the Ministry of Health to peer review my own OIA. And I wrote back and I went, can you give me a log on and a password while you're giving me the link? I'd love to actually peer review my own OIA. And while I'm at it, under the Official Informations Act, do you peer review every OIA, or is it only some people's OIAs that you peer review? And then it was like, radio silence for like 48 hours, and then in comes a Te Whatu Ora, in comes another email. Oh, sorry, we accidentally sent you the wrong email. And I went, oh, did you? I said, no shit. I just love it. I love catching them out, and like they're so incompetent and so kind of like trying to bury stuff and be dishonest. You know what? There's a thing. The truth always rises to the surface in the end, and it's coming. The truth is coming. It's going to come via Trump. I hope he's going to carry through. I hope Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will get in as head of Health and Human Services, because that will be a breaking moment.
Yeah, well, I think there are definitely catalysts for enabling a lot of these things, because they're set in very high, powerful positions. But I think there is everybody else that's involved in this. Everyday people like yourself, Linda Warden, NZ Health Forum. But most importantly, there are citizens who have suffered injury, right? Oh. They are the most important people in this whole thing.
Absolutely.
There is no reason for any system to exclude a group of people who simply have suffered something. And the evidence is very clear that there are incentive-based behaviors that goes on in the health system where people... they either lie, they change information, they influence information in a very biased fashion to say, well, there is no such thing as vaccine injury. And I think that's the fatal mistake that you can make. If there is vaccine, there has to be injury. If there is a medicine you take, there has to be side effects. That's just how it goes. It's the Newton's third law of the world. If there's an action, there's a reaction. So it's a big mistake to make, and then you create heat, you create rage, and people go, well, I pay my taxes and I expect to be serviced, and if you don't service me, then we're gonna start to understand why, and then we do OIAs, we do requests, then the whole system starts to get exposed, and that's what's happened over the last 3-4 years. Is they could have just simply said, you know what, there are, we're rushing this because we've got a problem, and I think nobody wants the civilization to end.
Yeah.
If we've got something that's going to end the civilization, everybody, gets behind it and they pushes for it, and that's a great thing, us as humans, right? But then you also have to be honest about that you're pushing this fast through, and then we can expect that it's going to have issues, and then we should allocate resources for people for that issues, right? If you're going to ask me to be a team of 5 million people, and I come and sacrifice myself and my job and my health to be part of that 5 million people, so somebody that's compromised in my community gets protected because I'm having a vaccine, and you're telling me that this is what's going to work, and then it doesn't work, I expect that you're honest enough to stand up and say, hey, look, We pushed this fast because there was a world-ending situation. We got it wrong. We can see there are 20,000 people injured. We're going to allocate $20 million to look after them. We're going to look at the vaccine. We're going to make the information available. We're going to release the Pfizer contract. This is the things that we should not be doing again. Instead of going, we should protect ourselves here first.
Yeah, or they're protecting themselves because they know.
And not the people that are injured. And they can be compromised. What's more important is we should not lose our power to govern over people.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where I think they've gone wrong. It's as simple
Yeah.
as that. That's how I see it.
Well, you can't silence that many people. I mean, the number of reactions, and the only reliable report on the number of reactions that get reported is a thing called the Lazarus Report, which was done in the States on the VAERS system, which is the equivalent of the CALM system in New Zealand, which is Centre for Adverse Reaction Monitoring. And they said that only 1% of vaccine injuries ever get reported because doctors don't have time to do the reports, really. Now, 64,000 as of November 2022, when they turned off the where people could see publicly how many reactions there were. That is more reactions than all of the medicine put together for the last 10 years. And they go, oh, but everybody had this one. And what? Everybody doesn't have tetanus? But it didn't have, that many reactions. Like the number of reactions to that vaccine are minuscule in comparison. This is a dangerous pharmaceutical, and I beg to differ on the name vaccine. It is a gene therapy. It is a genetic gene therapy. It's patented as a gene therapy. It's not truly a vaccine, but they use that vaccines are safe to make people accept it. And then the important thing that is in this gene tech bill that was part of this is the emergency use authorisation. If there was something that treated COVID, they could not get the COVID-19 mRNA shot approved if there was a treatment. If there was something that was an early treatment that would help people, which is why they vilified hydroxychloroquine, first of all, and then they vilified ivermectin. They ran round on TV telling people it was horse drench. It won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2015 as the most effective medicine on the planet. Hydroxychloroquine, and you may know this, is given in some countries where, in tropical type countries, it's given on a Sunday. They call it Sunday medicine because they all take their hydroxychloroquine pill on a Sunday to stop them getting malaria. And so it was being used. It was a safe drug that had been used for 30, 40 years. Same with ivermectin, an award-winning top of the shelf drug for parasitic issues. But doctors that were treating in America when COVID was first fresh and came out of China, they were finding that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine was something that was working, and they were vilified. You're giving them you're giving them horse worming stuff. Well, yeah, it isn't horse worming stuff, but it's actually a human medicine.
Yeah.
And a great human medicine that's been one of our best.
Ivermectin's got a Nobel Peace prize for that medicine. It's funny how when Joe Rogan took it and he did a video about his treatment, CNN took his video. Do you know about this?
Oh, no.
So CNN did a story about Joe Rogan taking horse medicine. And what they did was they took Joe Rogan's video, which he posted on Instagram, about his treatment, that he's going well, this is what he's taken, this is what he's doing. They take his video and they run that news story on CNN. But what they do is they run a filter over his face. And they make him look like he's very unwell, he's aged, he looks really awful.
Oh.
And then the headline was he's taken horse warming medicine, and that's why he looks like this.
Yeah, no, the corruption of the media and what they're putting out to the public is unbelievable.
Yeah, and they're still going at it.
Look, Elon Musk, I love you guys from my heart to you. And what do? They grab the photo like that and says he's done an artsy sign.
Yeah, and the funny thing is,
guys, and he's a very expressive person, that's
Yeah.
just the way he is. He's got his
Yeah.
own way. The guy is a genius, But that wasn't a Nazi salute sign, but look, all over the Herald. Oh,
Yeah.
Nazi salute sign. I thought, you disingenuous pricks, excuse my language.
Yeah.
But anybody that watched that whole video would see, from my heart to yours, thank you for voting for Trump. My heart to yours, thank you. That's
Yeah.
what he did.
Yeah.
And he was, he was expressive, so they grabbed it while his hand was out and went, he's doing Nazi signs. What a disingenuous bunch. Do they think people are that stupid that people didn't go and watch the inaugural speeches in full?
I think
Is
they
that
do.
what they're thinking?
I think
so
that's
they
why they
deliver
do
it to the public
Yeah.
and go, oh yeah, a certain percentage of the Herald readers would not have watched the whole thing.
That's right. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if you look at everybody else being caught up with their hands up for whatever reason, because it's quite normal to have your hand straight, whether
Yeah.
you're waving or whatever it is.
Yeah,
There's all
expressing
these
yourself.
images coming out of AOC. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, but there's no stories of them
The best one
doing
I
the
saw
Hitler salute.
was Village People, YMCA. Look, double Nazi salute.
Yeah.
I
It's,
thought that
it's
was
bizarre.
I thought that was really good. It's just the disingenuousness of the media really upsets me because I've been a publicist by trade and I still deal with a lot of them. With other music acts and things that I'm doing, and I mean I've been all right in that department, but it's kind of like it's like once upon a time you went, like, if I had a scoop on something, I'd go to the media. Like, I worked at one stage for a wealthy guy down where I live, and I was a part-time PA for him. Mm-hmm. So Brad Pitt was a jet at Nelson Airport. So, like, the Nelson Mail, which is staff, rang me and said, oh, Aly, you don't have Brad Pitt and that staying with you. And I went, if I did, I'd be under a non-disclosure agreement and I wouldn't be able to tell you anyway. But,
Yeah.
That's a scoop. Like, the scoop thing has gone. They used to, like, look for the thing that nobody else had and do that. And I've actually got, which I have put in with my first petition, I did a petition with 23,000 signatures calling for a Royal Commission of Inquiry into safety and efficacy of the vaccine. And I did that because safety and efficacy, phase 1 of the Royal Commission of Inquiry, safety and efficacy of the vaccine and mandates were left out of the discussion. You couldn't discuss those things in the phase 1. And I got this piece of evidence, and it was actually a conversation between me and a TV producer, and I won't say from what TV station, but that TV producer said to me, and I copied all of it was on Twitter, on X, because at that point that was the way I used to deal with media, because all the media were on the then Twitter. And if I wanted to get an interview on Radio New Zealand for an artist, I'd go to that producer's Twitter and go, hey, I've got this artist, blah, 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 blah. And I'd start the conversation on Twitter and finish it on email. Mm-hmm. And so she was having a nice open conversation until she went, oh, we better take this conversation offline. And she said to me it was a groupthink. And there was, because I said to her, can you cover Casey Hodgkinson's story? This girl is 23. Her life has been ruined. She's been slandered all over the paper by the guy that runs the Milligan Institute, and he's still there. He called her a scam. This kid is in a wheelchair. She's in a wheelchair, shaken like a leaf, having epileptic fits. She's been like that since the moment she had the vaccine or the shot. She got a numb tongue, and she's one of our worst vaccine-injured people in New Zealand, in my opinion. She's one of the people that took, apart from Rory dying and the people that have died, she's one of the more public ones. And she said, I can't. I'd be fired if I covered that story. And she said it to me in text. And I went, why is it that you can't do this? And she said, it's a groupthink. And I went, she said, everyone round here is in a groupthink, was what she said to me.
Yeah.
And so I've got the conversation between her and I, and it's actually in my petition. Her name is blacked out, but it's in my petition evidence, because people went, but you're not going to do anything with that petition. Then the Royal Commission of Inquiry phase 2 came in, so that would cover my petition. But I did 1,600 pages of evidence, 16 supplementary documents that went with my petition, and it had 250 vaccine injury stories, including hers, letters from the Nien family, who, by the way, their daughter, they lost their son to the vaccine, and their daughter suffered the same pericarditis as my son. So they had 2 children seriously, one died and one seriously affected. All these vaccine injury stories, all the leaked Pfizer contracts from around the world, all the documents that Pfizer were forced to release by the US court system because they tried to keep them from the public for 75 years, and then the US courts. So I put as many of those documents that were released at the time in my petition. The reason I did that is now I can give people a link, and on the New Zealand government website, all of my petition evidence is up there. And it's not for now. It's for down the line when they go, oh, we didn't know. Oh, really? Go and have a look at the petition evidence that's on your government website. So that was one of the reasons I wanted those vaccine injury stories up there. For anyone to actually read, can click on that and read hundreds of stories. And I wanted them up there so that one day, hopefully they get prosecuted and I can point and say, they knew.
Yeah, we've lost the real essence of what journalism should be. And they have been captured by groupthink, ideology.
Yeah.
And it is unacceptable for journalists to be taking a not neutral stance, whether you should be vaccinated, and if you're not, you're a cooker and you're this and you're that, or you're lying. That's not your job as a journalist, and you shouldn't be doing groupthink.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be having journalists in New Zealand who are senior and high profile hanging around in a WhatsApp group chat exchanging what goes, what doesn't go. Or we should tell this story and we shouldn't tell that story. And the whole idea of fake news is very simple. It simply means that you don't take the facts and create a story. You have a story in your mind already, the angle that you want to take, and then you fill in the information bent towards the story you want to tell. And that's why websites like ground.news are very helpful. What they do is they aggregate all the news stories online on these news websites. Then they put a left versus right. Did I give you a glass?
You did give me a glass.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
get
cool.
some water.
Yeah.
So then, what they do is that they put a meter on top of every news story, and they tell you this is 70% left, 30% right.
Oh yeah.
This story is neutral. It's not left or right.
Yeah.
And it's a really good way to quickly know.
Yeah.
If this story is biased or not biased. If it's biased, what way they are leaning towards, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we've lost. And that is still the case with mainstream media. That's why they're losing business. CNN lost $400 million in revenue since Trump's election. Yesterday or this week, NZME has announced that they are laying off staff. And because they still haven't learned their lesson, and they're still pushing for the digital bargaining bill so they can get some money out of Google, but they don't realize that Google's already moving towards AGI. So if you do a Google search, you're going to get text. You're not going to get links to news channels. I've talked to the digital audio team at NZME about my podcast, and they should be taking it on. They should licensing it because it's the new world. It's the new news. They have no idea what this is all about. They don't understand it.
You think they would have figured it
They
out
don't.
by now?
Yeah, you
with
think
some
so.
of the podcasters around the world.
Yeah, they
you
just
think
don't
would
get
have
it.
sorted it.
But when Trump was on Joe Rogan, and when Trump won, because Joe Rogan had a huge influence on that, with 100 million views, all these guys are in the media scene were saying, well, how can we get one of those Joe Rogans for ourselves? Right? So it was kind of very narcissistic in many ways, because what they were basically saying, we don't like that guy. He spreads a lot of lies and misinformation, but we see value in that format. So how can we replicate that format and then we use it and we make it better for ourselves? But the answer is very simple. You had him and you lost him, and you still have
Yeah.
him, and you can still go on his show. You don't need to
Yeah.
replicate it. Just go and talk your
Yeah.
truth, whatever your truth is, but be prepared to have a conversation for 3 hours. And the beauty of that format is anyone can bullshit for 45 minutes.
They can't bullshit.
Well,
for
let's
3
see
hours.
how let's see how they speak when it comes to the second hour and the third hour, and there's no
Can you imagine if Kamala Harris had actually accepted his
that
invitation?
would have been so good.
I'm so relieved by the thing that has been, the thing that has been relieving. You know, like, it's just like there's so
Yeah.
much word salad.
She would have been
couldn't speak
traumatized
an
on the floor.
honest. Yeah, she would have been. She would have been
She
had it.
wouldn't be able to speak
Because
for more than
it's just like you and I now. It's a chat, and that's when people are, it was an interview. Oh, you know, and everywhere I saw it where I could actually put comments because you can't comment on any news sites anymore. It was like, dudes, can you not get it through your head? It's not an interview. It's a sit-down chat.
Yeah, it's
it's not an interview. It's a
Yeah.
it's a chat. It's a chat with a camera on. That's you know.
Yeah, and it is a new concept. Even my guests that come on my show, they say, "But what do you want to talk about for 3 hours?" And I'm like, "I don't know." They're like, "What do you mean by you don't know and you want to film me for 3 hours?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, it's just whatever.
I kind of
track,
have an
it's
idea
whatever-
in my brain,
Yeah.
or I like what you are about, or I like, I might simply, I like bees. Can you come and talk to me about bees? Because you're a beekeeper. Tell me
Yeah.
about bees,
Yeah.
And that's it. And
Yeah.
there's no really any structure to any of this.
Yeah.
And that's because people now have an appetite to want to know who you are, who you really are.
Yeah.
How do you talk in environments where you work at as a
Yeah.
government official?
And you don't have a piece of paper in front of you to tell you what to say.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
no teleprompter, right?
Yeah.
And so that can reveal a lot about a person to know how you're going to make decisions about how you behave. It's just like Simeon Brown. He goes on Q&A,
Yeah.
and in that format, he is just defending himself. He's not answering the question that he's been asked. And you kind of go, if you behave like that on TV, how do you behave behind the scene?
Yeah.
So can you come on my show for 3 hours and let's see how you behave? Because I won't interrupt you for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You can talk for 20 minutes and I'll just look at you.
Yeah.
Because there is
Yeah.
you don't feel like you need to defend yourself all the
I think
time.
this format is a chance to just show who you are and, as a person and maybe what drives you along,
Yeah. People want to know that.
Yeah.
And long conversations have a very powerful ability to rehabilitate and re-energize anyone's image.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan talks to Hitler for 3 hours. If he wanted, he can make Hitler look like a really good guy. That's the power of the conversations, because people will believe what they're seeing. People like Joe Rogan have this ability to,
And also, I think people that are watching that can read people. We have to give people some credit here. So
Yeah.
if you're having a conversation on a long, elongated podcast chat like this, or like any of them, like Joe Rogan, they're going to see who you are and they can judge who you are, because you know what? They've got judgment skills as well.
Yeah. And I
we've
think
got to
that-
give people credit for that,
And one of the mistakes that journalists have made, and that's why everyone's kind of turning against them now, is that they have decided that they're going to be the gatekeeper of truth.
Yes, well, I think that's what I've learned from those conversations, like I pointed out to you with that producer. And there's another very well-known journalist as well that's at a news outlet, which I also won't name, because I've known some of these people for years because I've put music acts through them and stuff. So as a publicist, so I don't want to drop them in it, but this particular person fought really hard to remain unvaccinated, and this person is still inside a media outlet. And she will be fired, she said, if she covers a vaccine injured, because I'm trying to get somebody in the mainstream media, and I'm going to continue to hound them. I'm going to continue to say them, there's thousands of New Zealanders. You're not telling one single story of vaccine injury, like nobody's going to trust you. I've got this beautiful open letter that I'm partway through writing to the new Minister of Health, to say to him, this is your chance. You know, if you want people to believe you, and this is why your health system, and give him all of the figures and everything in short as I can, they've got a chance to come forward. Now, you look at somebody like Piers Morgan, I think you always have to leave the door open for people to change their mind. That's the other thing. People were foxed by literally being brainwashed, okay? I mean, our government spent something like 38 million in 11 months on trying to convince people to take this shot. So it was massive brainwashing. But some people have gone, you know what? I was told I wasn't going to get it when I did this thing, and I've had it 5 times or whatever, you know? And Piers Morgan is one of those people that, you know, was vehemently for the shots and you're chicken shit if you don't have it, and putting people down and everything. And he's turned around because he's gone, we were lied to. Yeah. He's actually turned around and gone, he's lied to. Now, his new platform is an interview platform, which I think is really interesting. I've been looking at that a lot lately. He's the only one that gets somebody from the left and somebody from the right and somebody from the left and somebody from the right, and he sits there like a referee. And he's actually
and they go at each other.
Refereeing, but he's at least giving an even playing field. You know what I mean? He's giving the left the chance to have their say, and he's giving the right the chance to and that's it. Journalism used to do a story on something and go to the person on the opposite side and get them to give their opinion. That is no longer. So we have all the, you know, it's good for you, stick it in your arm, doing the best for grandma, not going to get COVID, 2 shots for summer. What a lie that was. They're all getting COVID over and over again. It didn't work. We know that now. We know the efficacy is absolute crap, basically, on this product. But they won't tell the other side of that story. They won't show, you know, people like my son, people like Casey, or any other of the thousands of vaccine injured. They know the figures. They've been sent the MedSafe figures so many times. They know there's thousands of New Zealanders hurt. They know, for example, that we've paid, you know, 11.4 million out of 30th of September in ACC. Have you heard that in the media? No. The average New Zealander does not realise there's been 11 million paid out. The other thing is, while they were pumping their safe and effective message, I've got an OIA from Grant Robertson, who's the one that signed the Pfizer contract, and it's an OIA of the Ministry of Justice coming back and forth going, you can't do the mandates, it's blah, 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 you know, like telling them that it's like it's breaching the Bill of Rights, and there's these conversations. And before they signed the Pfizer contract, they knew that ACC was going to pay out 10 million in damages. So they knew that at least 10 million would be paid out to New Zealanders. That's what they budgeted for, was 10 million. They were up to 11 million, nearly 12 million as of September. They knew that was going to be paid out, yet they told people it was safe and effective.
Yeah.
And when they knew that they actually had a consideration for the amount of ACC that people paid.
I think there's a better way to do this. I don't think it's about hounding the mainstream media to tell a story about a vaccine person. I think the better outcome for everybody is that never talk to the mainstream media. Okay, don't even go to mainstream media with your story. Use independent media to tell your stories. Push independent media to become the mainstream media, like these kind of shows, and never post any links of mainstream media on social media on your profiles. And always send news from citizen journalists posted on X as a link to your friends and family.
Yeah.
And get them on that platform. Yeah. Because that way, not only you're moving the audience away from mainstream media clicks, you're actually allowing these people to have a different way of rewiring the brain to consume the news.
Yeah, true.
Because we are seeing a huge divide in community and societies where people who get the news from X and podcasts and people who get the news from mainstream, these group of people, the first group of people, they're better off in life because they're much more informed. They understand information in a much better fashion than this group of people.
Yeah.
you know. So my approach is, and I see a lot of independent journalists on social media like X who hate the mainstream media, and they know that they're lying, and they do really good work, but they constantly post links from the mainstream media. So it's almost like you're giving the mainstream media authority to say that we are still the mainstream media. But I think if we change our narrative and say,
Yeah.
well, you're not the mainstream media anymore because you're not getting any hits anymore,
Yeah.
then you're not the mainstream media anymore. So I think if we do that,
Definitely promoting the
Yep.
citizen journalists
Yep.
that are out there that are starting all the podcasts, that are doing all the stuff. That's really, really important. It's funny that you just bring that up, because it reminds me, I'm a member of the New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party, so with Sue Gray, so her and I are quite close, and I've been a member of the Outdoors Party since way back with the 1080 movement kind of thing, so against 1080 poisoning. And so I'm one of the administrators of the New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party page. And, of course, we're really open with the stuff. We're actually posting stuff through. And the debunking, Aotearoa debunking conspiracy theories or something, it's a page on Facebook. And we put up some meme. It was just it was a meme of this lady from the 1920s with, conspiracy theories. They call me a conspiracy theorist, but it was like, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, they must have decided they were going to come and raid it. And so we went, wow, we're getting unreal hits on that. And I said, it's debunking conspiracy theories. I said, the stupid pricks don't realise they're actually helping our algorithm. So what they were doing is they were bombarding this one post, of which which I use as kind of like, I go down, and my favourite thing is block, ban, delete, so I just go down if they're really offensive, and I block, and ban you actually from ever making anything on your ISP again and coming on our page. So I love doing that. But apart from that, I was like, I'll just let them do it for a while, because actually all our posts are actually showing to more people now, because, before last election, we were second behind the National Party on one review for actually the number of people visiting our site, because we've got like 30,000 odd likes on there now. And so we have a very active community, because we are supporting those vaccine injured. We are telling their stories. We are, as we get, Sue and I get OIAs, and there's sort of like a group of us actually. There's a few of us that are in an OIA group, and so I'll send off an OIA. It'll come back, I'll shoot it over to Guy Hatchard, he'll do an analysis of the figures, and we'll both send off. And Sue and I were actually doing the same questions, and then we get them when they come back with different answers to us. Boom, off it goes to the Ombudsman as a complaint. You just gave one person one answer and you gave the other person a different answer. Because that's the other thing they're doing, is answering questions.
Yeah.
And what they don't realise is that we're working together. We're all working together. And
you're right. And I think one of the things the mainstream media have lost is also their ability to do investigative journalism.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something now you see has been picked by all these independent journalists, and you see the likes of centrists. I don't know if you've heard of the centrists.
Yes.
And you mentioned Chantel Baker and yourself. If you look at who's doing most of the OIA requests to get the data and then report on it, it's not the mainstream media, because they wear government propaganda arm. So why would they be exposing themselves by doing investigative journalism? So they shoot themselves on the foot again.
Here's the sad fact, is when a mainstream media goes in for an OIA, they get it that afternoon. So when that chick from the television station went in with my under 40s to the Ministry of Health, they were like, when do you need it by? She said, 5 p.m. this afternoon. So we wait 20 days. A mainstream media journalist gets the answer that day.
Wow.
Yeah. So they actually have, not only are they not using their investigative journalism skills, but their answer is given to them the same day or whenever their deadline is for their editing.
Yeah.
So they're given it straight away, and they run round and they shuffle. So they can get those answers, but they just take 20 working days for the rest of us. And sometimes they take a lot longer, particularly when it's things they don't want to answer, like, oh dear, we've given her somebody's given her the figures, now what are we going to do? Which is what they've done with the under 40s. But unfortunately for them, 2GB covered it in Sydney and New South Wales and Queensland's figures matched ours. So, the thing is that Australia and New Zealand, we are unique in the world in that vaccine rolled out, or that shot rolled out before we got COVID here in any sort of numbers. So basically the vaccine injury stands out like dog's balls because basically you've got the shot rolling out and the disease hasn't arrived yet, and the under 40s is going like that. So here they can't blame it on COVID or long COVID. Because that's what they want to do. They want to. You can be sure that half those people in that cardiology room would be going, "I've got long COVID," when in fact they've not got long COVID. They've got long vax, which is the same thing. So the spike proteins, because when you get COVID, you get the spike protein. It goes and it leaves your body. This thing has made an mRNA messenger to make you make spike protein. Now, one of my vaccine injured guys, and I don't think he'll mind me saying, but he was a very famous New Zealand actor. You may have had him on here, and he's now very vaccine injured. He managed to get a blood test.
Who is he?
Barry. You should get Barry on.
Barry who?
Duffield. Yeah.
Okay, I should.
So he's actually spoken publicly about this, so it's because it is medical results. So, but he's spoken publicly in public forums with it. He managed to get a type of spike protein blood assay to get the spike proteins tested in his body. And Barry has neurological problems, heart problems like my son. It took this hulk of a man that was on Spartacus and has ruined his, life, like physically, from this physical guy that worked out to the gym to being, and it's often the fit ones that were the ones that got hit.
He should really do like a testosterone replacement therapy. And I've been doing that after I started my vaccine detox.
He's tried. I'll put you in contact with him. So he's tried a lot of things. But his interesting thing was he got his blood tested. He had 13 times the amount of spike protein circulating in his body as someone with a raging COVID infection, except he hasn't had COVID. So his body, that little mRNA wrapped in a lipid nanoparticle that they tell you is so harmless and stays in your arm. Oh, no. It deposits itself in the testes and the ovaries, and it attacks the heart, and that's, and attacks central nervous system for people. It's attacking everywhere. But the main thing is his blood showed that the stuff is actually circulating. It's continuing to make spike proteins flat out. So I'm waiting to get an assay, a blood test done for my son, because I want the same thing done on him to see if he in fact has got the same thing, because I suspect that's a big one. And I think anyone out there that's vaccine injured, you should try and get I know there's a Roche spike assay test, and test to see how much spike is in your blood. If you're having a reaction and you're ongoing unwell, see if you're like Barry and you've actually got 13 times the amount that a person would have during a raging COVID infection without having COVID.
Yeah.
So, and it's just attacks them.
Yeah, I'm not one that gets too caught up in data analysis. I like to get on alternative medicine very quickly, because if someone else has worked for him, then I can trust that information very quickly and I jump on it. And I did psychedelics to detox, was very macro dosing DMT enabled psychedelics, which was very helpful to detox the mRNA out of the system. And then I got on a testosterone replacement therapy to use that to get back in the gym and build my muscle back, build my strength back. And testosterone replacement therapy, I think one of the things that we need to be aware of about just health in general, now I'm going to talk about men only, is that when you get to your 30s, your testosterone drops naturally every year. You get a decline, right? And what you can do is you can get on either prescribed testosterone or plant-based testosterone. It can just be pills from something like Alpha Men's Lab. You can get these supplements and you can get that in your body, and you get the right intake of proteins and you work out. You can, over time, by the time you're 50, you build your body. You de-age your body, is what I like to call it. I like to look at life in a way where I have all these different parts in my body, different organs, and I would age them. The good thing about what you're talking about with analysis and tests and things like that, you need to then figure out what is the age of your lungs. What is the age of your heart?
Yeah.
So your heart might have been 20 years old. You take the vaccine, you have an injury, now your heart is 50 years old, even though your body is 20 years old or your age is 20 years old. So then you got to figure out, well, how do I de-age the heart back to a 20-year-old heart? Some things you can't de-age, like your eardrums, you know, but that philosophy allows you to just naturally have a really positive, conscious focus about your health, because you're constantly de-aging the whole thing. You know, Brian Johnson, who is behind this philosophy called Don't Die, and he's just got a
I've watched the
Netflix, you know.
Yeah, I've
it's a
watched
very
it.
fascinating study and research that he's done. Yes, he spends $2 million a year on his body, but he's also got protocols where you can spend anything between $20,000 to $5,000 a year to continuously de-age your body. And if you stay in that very healthy, fit point, whatever goes into your body that shouldn't be going into your body, whether it's a vaccine or mRNA or a vaccine for cancer, whatever it is, you need to make sure your body is constantly de-aged and healthy. When something does ages your organs very fast, you have protocols that you've been doing every day anyway as part of being alive. You can quickly jump on that. And that's why someone like Joe Rogan, who works out 6 times a day, he is puffed as a 57-year-old. Look at RFK Jr., he's 72, and he is
amazing.
He looks amazing. And then you look at someone like Bill Gates.
Yeah.
He looks so unhealthy.
Yeah.
Why would you take health advice from someone like that? If you're fat and unhealthy and your skin looks awful and you eat peanut butter jelly sandwiches every day, I'm not taking health advice from you.
Yeah.
Right? Look at Shane Ritty. It's like, why would I listen to you about health? Look at the state of yourself. Sorry, I don't body shaming here, but it's true.
Yeah.
You've got to be, you know, healthy and fit as everyday protocol. And then you can then deal with these things that happen.
Yeah.
I have got my health way better than just listening to whatever Joe Rogan does to his body.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, I'll do that. And I don't need so much research because it's working on him. Yes, everybody's body is different and you figure out as you go. But I think that sort of philosophy, no matter if you are injured and then you start this philosophy or you are not injured, just get onto it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
if you do,
heart, what you were talking about, hormones, big one, and the other one is gut health, and that's something that, interestingly, my son's cardiologist is getting him to focus on. She said, first of all, I want to make sure you're on a good diet and you're looking after your
What's
gut health.
his diet like?
He's improved, but he was a truck driver, right? And so they just stop
Eating pies
and they're sitting and driving for hours, and so
Red Bulls.
it probably will. Yeah, exactly. So he stopped. Well, he stopped all of that anyway because of the heart. Because obviously, when you've got something going on, you drink a V or a Red Bull or something at your heart. Not a good thing to be drinking at all. No. So now he's actually got really. The other day I sent him home because I eat from the garden. I'm actually vegetarian, so
Are you?
But I eat from the garden. And so I sent him home with a whole lot of, spray-free veggies from home, tomatoes and cucumbers and beans. And I just sent him a whole, I said, right, there you go home, make sandwiches and cook stuff and you use, spray-free vegetables. And
I hate veggies. I don't even touch them.
Yeah.
I don't want to get anywhere near them.
Well, I don't want to get anywhere near supermarket veggies, but I like my own because I grow from seed that I keep myself. So I actually have heritage plants and I have like beans where I've, so a certain amount of it I harvest and then I let the others turn to beans and then I keep those in a jar for next spring.
And it works for a lot of people. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, who I love, Formula One driver, he's plant-based and his performance is quite incredible to watch and there's no decline in his performance.
It's hard work being a vegetarian.
Yeah, Barry Johnson, Don't Die, he's all about being plant-based and there is really good results. I mean, personally, for me, I'm not a big eater.
Right.
So
well, that's
I
a good thing
fast
to
a lot.
be, actually. So, I've started doing is not eating in the morning.
And I can't have a lot of food in my system.
I still haven't eaten yet.
So I have a lot of...
The keto-y thing.
Yeah, I have a lot of supplements. I have really good shakes that put the protein and carbs that I need.
Yeah.
But then if I need some food, it's either some chicken or some steak.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I eat.
Yeah.
and I'm happy with that. You know?
Well, you work out what works for
I love
you.
a really good salad if
Yeah.
it's made in a nice restaurant.
Well, that's the best because raw...
You know? Like a
raw
Caesar salad would be
yeah.
my favorite, you know? Like have a really nice Caesar salad with some
Yeah.
cheese and olive
Yeah,
oil. I
yeah.
love that, you know?
Yeah.
That I'd enjoy. But I'm not someone that's obsessed about constantly having veggies in my body, legumes in my body, you know? That's,
I'm probably more obsessed with eating out of my garden. So I'm quite obsessed with trying to make sure that I grow most of my diet because I just don't trust what comes through the supermarket. So, you know, they put all sorts of horrible sprays in New Zealand. Things like glyphosate are actually legal, you know, like cancer-causing kind of sprays. And, so I like to actually grow. So I've got things like, I'm in Nelson and I've got things like bananas and pineapples growing, you know, and I've got greenhouses full of, you know, dwarf bananas,
that sounds
Cavendish
fun.
bananas and you know, growing tomatoes and growing enough potatoes to last, you know, well into, so I don't have to go near a supermarket for potatoes now, or garlic or onions or pumpkin.
Yeah, I consume
I don't need
none of
I
that.
I can't sort of, you know, I don't eat a lot of potatoes anyway because they're kind of starchy, but but all of those things like garlic and that, I like to grow my own. I've got my own heritage garlic. I'll keep a certain amount of the bulbs to plant next year, and you know, the garlic through everything really. And so so I like the pleasure of growing out of my own garden, and that's kind of like one of my, you know, I go from playing music
absolutely.
and being with heaps and heaps of people.
Whatever
going
works for
home
you,
to the
you know?
solitude of my greenhouses.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
That's always the way to be. But yeah, the amount of poison we put in our bodies through consumption of industrialized food. You know, we just look at the fluoride that we have in our water.
There's another whole subject. That's Sue's game, Sue Gray. So that's her. Like, I stay over here with the vaccine injury a little bit. I go and help the fluoride guys as well, you know, that are fighting the fluoride thing. But you know, again, that's another forced thing that people don't even realise, and people are like, oh, it's good for your teeth. No, it's not actually. It's a neurotoxin, and it's a byproduct of the you know, a fertiliser industry byproduct. They'd have to pay to get rid of it if they weren't tipping it in your water. You know, I feel sorry for people that are being forced to have fluoride. You know, you've got to reverse osmosis, people. That's what you actually need, is a reverse osmosis filter, apparently. That's the one that you can get your, you have to get the right one to get rid of your fluoride. But, I mean, even then, you know, I have rainwater.
Okay.
And so I have rainwater off my roof, and I don't even have a filter, right? So for 30 years I've been on my farm, and I'm now 62. So like for 30 years I've been on my farm drinking unfiltered rainwater off the roof, and nobody gets sick.
Wow.
And so, because I want it to have kind of like some stuff in it, you know, like I don't mind that. They're like, but what if a bird craps on your roof? And I'm like, well, you know, hey, you know, we've got strong constitutions, you know. People used to go, oh, your kid's eating dirt. Let them eat dirt, you know, because like they're going to build an immune system, you know. That's how you build your immune system and keep it strong, is by keeping your hands in the dirt. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to dig and get in the dirt and, you know, pick plants and get your hands dirty, you know, because like if you keep keeping yourself all, put that poisonous stuff on your hands and keep them sterilised, you know, it's sort of like, duh, you know, like that's not, you know, I won't even use things like sunscreen. It's like, nah, get out in the sun, vitamin D, you know. And it's like, I don't like the sunscreen stuff. I reckon that's carcinogenic stuff.
There's a lot
read
of
the
crap.
back of the bottle. It's like, really? You're going to rub that? And, I'm very minimalist with, as you can see, I'm pretty minimalist with makeup and minimalist, even being an artist, I'm still quite. Nice. I only put it on my face to go on stage, and then it's like it's off as soon as I'm off, you know.
Yeah,
so.
It's nice to see people like Pamela Anderson go makeup free.
Yeah.
Natural looks, you know. It's a really good statement to make. My friend has a sunscreen company called Sun and Soul.
Oh, yes.
So that one
natural
is very natural, very clean.
Yeah.
I personally use Hawaiian Tropical. I love the Hawaiian tropic smell and the botanicals, and seems healthy. I mean, I'm not someone that looks too much into that.
Yeah. But there's all these things that are a combination of things that we put on our body that can affect, can affect us. And I guess it's overload, isn't it? It's like you're potting chemicals on your skin, you're ingesting chemicals, you're breathing chemicals.
And one way to kind of avoid that, sometimes you can't just escape all of these things. We all live on the same planet, and we are exposed to it. And that's why philosophies, there's a group called the Minimalist. I don't know if you've ever watched their documentary.
No, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so they became famous for living a lifestyle of minimum consumption.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I watch a lot of those kind of things anyway. People doing the food forests and, living totally off their land and making little rubbish and reusing things, finding ways to use things.
If you consume less, then you are naturally keeping the toxins that you're exposed to at a minimal point.
Yeah. Yeah.
If someone that don't have a lot of money, resources, and time to get into all the research and live a life where you are totally, in control, it's a good place to start to just live a minimalist consumption lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eat less, consume less, put less things on your skin, wear less stuff.
Yeah.
Live on less land and do less supermarket trips and, everything. Just think about just doing less of it. And then you're just naturally, you position yourself to have the less stuff in your body.
Yeah.
If there's a vaccine that's out for cancer, maybe think very hard about putting that in your body. You might be desperate because you've got cancer, but maybe try ivermectin. Maybe try some other things. Mel Gibson was on Joe Rogan saying ivermectin and a few other things.
Yeah.
A blue dye that's have helped his friends cure cancer.
Yeah, I've heard.
Right?
Yeah, something blue.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a little bit of that pop into the whole thing. I mean, alternative medical treatments and living a holistic. That's why I like to eat out of my garden. Because Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine. Is pretty much a really good thing. Let food be thy medicine. So whatever you put in and put on you is gonna dictate your health, and so you should be looking to eat the best food with the lowest chemical content on it. And sometimes you can kind of it doesn't have to necessarily be expensive. Like you can go to the markets. I love going to the markets. I got a real refresh thing for that in Nelson during the whole COVID thing. We had the Freedom Market where we dared to go without masks, and we all went there and had stalls, and we took our vegetables, and then we could swap, I'll give you some of your chicken eggs for my, pumpkin or whatever. So there's a kind of a chance to work together community-wise, and you can go to the markets and find vegetables that people have grown themselves, and they've got spray-free written on them, and it's like, okay, know. And then when I've got too many fruit at my place, I've got an honesty box at the gate, and I bag up all my fruit. I bag up 40 to 60 kilograms of kiwi fruit every year when I'm at home, just put it in a bag. $4. Don't charge anywhere near what the supermarket does. Put it out at the gate. I make a few coins from fruit that I wouldn't have been able to eat, but I've already done all the preserving and all the drying because I dry and preserve. You can imagine I've got jars of stuff.
That.
And that is an art that needs to be actually taught. And because
I do it all the time. I mean, I'm an Arab, so
of course.
we
do all sorts of good
stuff.
stuff.
Grew up with fermentation of lots of things. And it's so good for your body.
Yeah, that's good for the gut health. Gut health.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so doing all that kind of preserving and doing all that stuff, and the excess I put at the gate and sell for quite cheap to other people that come along. They're like, "What? You're so cheap," and I'm like, "Yay!" You're walking away with spray-free food. So I know when you eat the kiwi fruit off my vine, it's never had one single spray on it ever.
Yeah.
And so and it's on ground that's been not sprayed at all for 30 years. So you're pretty safe to eat the veggies at the gate, and I know you're going to drive away and you're not, that food source you're not going to get poison out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good.
That's the way. That's awesome that you live on a farm. That's so cool.
It's just a little farmlet, but I've built a food forest on it over the years. So it's like I wander through and I've got flowers, and I love tropical things. It's interesting you say the Hawaiians smell. I'm like, got my frangipanis and I've brought them up into my conservatory and I'm like waiting for them to flower just so I can go and smell the frangipanis, because it's like that tropical. I love that. I lived in Hawaii for a while, and I lived in North Queensland so for a while as well. It's where I started my music industry back in the 80s work. It was kind of like I love that whole tropical vibe.
Nice.
I miss that. So
Great.
So like when I couldn't go to Australia anymore because I'd been working a lot over there and the lockdown came, it was kind of good for me because I was on the farm. Then I was like, right, that's it. I'm putting more greenhouses in. We, turned some horse yards into a greenhouse and built them out of recycled timbers and I called the greenhouse Australia so that I could actually go and sit inside it with all the passion fruits and the bananas and feel like I was in the tropics again. Yeah. So that greenhouse is called Australia.
Yeah, I love it. Let's get back to the vaccine injuries and the vaccine. You mentioned that you're going to go after the governments and all these people in terms of making sure that we have we deal with this situation, I guess. The situation is that there are people with vaccine injuries. How do they get access to treatments and ACC claims? There are vaccines still being rolled out and they have been advertised. You talked about how do we get rid of all these pharmaceutical advertisements. I think RFK Jr. is also exploring that as an idea.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah.
Because New Zealand and the United States are the only places in the entire world where pharmaceutical advertising can be done direct to the consumer without any limitation.
Yeah.
So when RFK, which I hope he will get in, he will ban, because he's talking about banning pharmaceutical advertising. I've got a petition currently that's actually for banning pharmaceutical advertising. So if you just go to petitions, folks, and look up Aly Cook, just in the subject matter, then both the petitions will come up, the one that's closed to do with the vaccines and one that's for banning pharmaceutical advertising in New Zealand. Because if he does it, that'll leave us as the only country in the world that allows it. And why should that be? And why is that is another question.
Yeah, it's bizarre that we have it in New Zealand.
We've always been the testing ground. We were the first to get the hole in the wall.
Of
we were
course
the
we
first
are.
to be able to take money out of a money machine. And I remember years ago a friend of mine who was a ambulance driver. He actually said to me that he said he could see when people were being dropped off and he'd stay there with them, that they'd offer them, we've got this new pharmaceutical in for tachycardia, you've got a bit of a racing heart, would you like to try it? And see, we've always been the testing ground for the pharmaceutical companies. So when this came along, I knew we kind of are the testing ground.
Mm-hmm. We are. Yeah, we should get rid of that.
We need to get rid of pharmaceutical advertising. The second we do that, anything left of mainstream media will die.
Yeah.
Because basically that's the other thing. They actually manage to influence the media because they're large advertisers. So it's like if you are advertising, your client is advertising with you, then it's hard for you to say anything that's critical of your client's product. It's a very simple, straightforward thing. And pharmaceutical advertisings and the ministry advertising has been huge with mainstream media. I would say they've survived on that. That's how they're still alive.
Oh, yeah.
So it will take their breath away.
Yeah.
Taking pharmaceutical advertising away will take the breath from them, and that will be the end of them, I believe. Well, if they aren't all gone anyway, because, as you said, they've not learned. No matter what, they just don't seem to look introspectively and go, we've been intentionally lying to people and they know we're lying to them.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching Super Bowl or something rather in American football, something, and the commercials would come on, right? And every commercial segment, every 15 minutes has, take your booster shot before you go for your summer break, and so your family and everybody is safe. And I'm like, what? Why is this an ad? Like, how does that? And there's this families having meals together, and It's just the programming they're pushing, normalizing that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. And also in America, here's to the difference between the advertising in America and the advertising in New Zealand. At the end of that ad in America, it goes, this product may cause death. And they just say really, really fast all the risks of the product. In New Zealand, they don't do that. They just put it in the fine print at the bottom of the screen. May cause death, may cause epileptic fits, may cause blah, 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 blah. Ask your doctor about. And so really, that is about them having influence. The interesting thing, I think it may have been Chantel Baker got an OIA, and that OIA, it pointed to that the ministry were not just buying advertising time to advertise the COVID shot to us. They were buying time inside of like 7 Sharp. They were buying time inside television programs, actual editorial time. Mm-hmm. They were paying for them, and then they would put, Michael Baker or the chick with the pink hair in that
Susie Wild
in that slot, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunate name for the lady that's over in America.
Yeah, Trump's chief of staff.
A far better Susie.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were buying the time. They were buying, not advertising 30-second ad slots. They were buying what is the news. They were buying the news. It's clearly there in OIAs that they were purchasing time segments.
Yeah. I think so. I think the influence of these health vaccine producers on the media, it has to go, because that's not what we should be doing anyway. What's the solution for transforming the health system to make sure that we include the vaccine injured and they get the right treatment, and then we inject new policies and rules around vaccines injuries should be a standard thing. If you have vaccines for kids or anybody for anything, there's going to be injuries. How do you go about changing that?
Okay, so there's first thing is recognition. Mm-hmm. Recognition, and then speaking out, recognizing that those people, that there are people that are injured, that there are masses of people that are injured who are affecting our health system. And then finally, then there's help. So there's the recognition, there's the support. This is all these people want. They're not looking for, most of them aren't looking for big payouts. They just want somebody to help them.
They want health service. They want help.
They want help. And so they're not being helped, they're being fobbed off as something else, or they're being put aside. So they need recognition, help, and then finally, when you recognise something and you realise it's a big problem, you can put research into it. People like the Malligan Institute, who are developing vaccines, should be made to find out how to reverse the mRNA damage that they've done to people that's making them produce spike proteins that are attacking their heart, etc. They should be made to actually locked in a bloody room and made to actually research until they find a way to undo what they've done. And so that only can happen if you recognise there's a problem. Right now, we're here. They won't recognise the problem. You can't get support and you can't get research to find out how to reverse or how to fix, or research into new medicines. You can't get that until you recognise. So my job is to make them recognise. To me, it's like I'm going to make you recognise what you're being part of. Mm-hmm. And to my dying breath, I will fight for the vaccine injured people. Because I want those people to go to their death knowing that they were part of lying, of misdiagnosing, of intentionally not helping people, because that's what we've got. These people in the Ministry of Health that are trying to twist all these OIAs, they know. They know. And it was interesting. I had a barbecue once where this guy turned up. He was a young guy, was off to a party over Takaka, one of those mini dance parties over there. And I said, what do you do over in Wellington? He said, I work for the Ministry of Health. And I thought, oh, my God, you've just walked into the wrong household. But I didn't say that. And this was just sort of after the crisis, the 2 shots for summer. So no doubt he'd had his 2 shots. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm an advisor. And I went, are you? I said, what do you do? And he said, people write OIAs in. And he said, and I take the OIAs and I send them out to who I think they should be sent to, and then they give the answers, and then they come back to me, and then I decide what to give the answer back to the person that's answered the OIA. And I went, oh, really? I said, what qualification have you got for that? And he said, I don't. I went, you've got no tertiary qualification for doing that whatsoever. And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, right, okay, so that's fun. And then he's chatting along, we're having a beer a little bit later on, they've had a few beers, so they're actually getting a couple of beers under their belt. And I went, what about the mandates? And he said, he said, I remember when the memo came through the department. And I said, what memo was that? And he said, you know how they say that only a small percentage of the health system have, only a small percentage of doctors and nurses have left. And I went, yeah, right. He said it's actually, they reckon it's 50 to 70% of the medical staff. And I said, really? And I said, what was significant about the memo? And he said, we wouldn't let the public know that. We're not to let the public know that. And I went, So you're part of lying to the public. And he went, no, I just work there. And I went, that is what they said to Hitler's people at the Nuremberg trials. I was only following orders. The people you work for are lying to the public of New Zealand.
Yeah.
And you still work there and you think that's okay?
Yeah.
And he sort of sat back and he went, it's not really okay, is it? And I went, no, it's not. And I said, and one day you might be asked about some of those things.
Yeah. I think
So I knew kind of earlier on that, that was one of the things the health system, I'm going to scroll back to your question now because I did stray. You're asking what can we do to fix it? We lost a good part of our health system. They could start by doing what Trump has just done. If Simon, what's his name, the new Minister of Health?
Simeon Brown.
If Simeon actually went, I'm going to do the same as Trump. I'm going to take every nurse and doctor and psychiatrist and specialist and radiographer and that's it, because there's people right across the health spectrum walked away from their job rather than having a vaccine or a shot. If he went out to them and went, going to offer you your job back with full pay, just like Trump's done to the armed forces.
Yeah.
If they did that, our health system would be fixed overnight.
Yeah, why would you get rid of all these people when we are losing nurses to Australia?
Not just these people.
Why would you get rid of people?
They were the best people.
Yeah.
I know that we lost 2 psychiatrists. There's 2 Manny is one of them who has a podcast now, and there was another psychiatrist that we lost. I met a woman at the protest who was the only pathologist in one whole area of New Zealand that did breast tissue. It was an expert on particular cancer diagnosis pathologist. She, so there's pathologists. I met radiologists. I met cardiac nurses, top level cardiac nurses, thoracic surgery nurses. Every kind of imaginable job. It's not just nurses and doctors that walked away. And so I know from little Mr. Drunken, I'm going over the hill to go to the dance party, and what he managed to cough up in his drunken moment, I now know there's 50 to 70% of the staff disappeared. So we lost. So that's the first thing. Ministry of Health, we have a whole lot of terrific doctors and nurses and staff who are wandering around driving tractors, retired, working down at the local grocery store or whatever they do, started their own business or whatever they've done, and they should be working in our health sector. If you gave all those people their jobs back, boom far, and then you accept that the vaccine was not, you stop advertising it, you take it off the market because it's hurting people. It's hurting too many people. There was no risk to my son of COVID at his age. His risk was but his risk from that vaccine was far greater. And so, you have to do the risk.
Yeah, why give it
versus
to
benefit
everyone? Why give
analysis.
it to everyone? If
Sweden
it's not
did great.
stopping, if it's not stopping
Yep.
the virus to go,
Yep.
if it's not stopping you from getting the virus, why take it? Because the risk of taking it is going to cost you more.
Yeah.
The government, because you're going to have injuries and you're going to have deaths and you're going to have all sorts of problems, and it's going to put pressure on your health system.
Yeah.
Why give it to everyone? Why not target it to people who should be taking it? If they're immune compromised, or they're people that might die from it, or they're older people, why give it to kids, right? Why do all of that stuff? It doesn't make any sense.
Next thing is the Medical Council of New Zealand needs to be stripped bare, and they need to look at who they actually put in there, and they need to give back every licence of every doctor that criticised that vaccine and stood up. They need their licences back. That we've lost, I think it's 32 doctors or something have been struck off at this
Wow.
point. We can't afford as a small island to have that many people So unstrike them off, clean out the Medical Council, get some balanced people in there, which is what Robert F. Kennedy is going to do in America, I hope, is get in there and make that balanced. I hope that will happen. Mm-hmm. And so we need to do that, give all the staff back, offer them back pay, give their licences back, offer them, go cap in hand and ask them to come back. I'm sure if they were recognised that they were wronged and they were sorted, a lot of them would go back. We have all these great medical people all around New Zealand who are not working in the medical field, and we need them back. That would solve the problems immediately. That would solve a lot of the problems.
Did the COVID phase 1 inquiry address any of these problems in any ways?
No, because the trouble with the phase 1 COVID inquiry was it was Miss Jacinda Ardern getting herself a back patting session. Oh, lessons learned. I did so well.
Yeah,
No, you didn't. You killed people and you actually maimed people. So no, you didn't do well. The terms of reference left out clinical diagnosis of any decisions made by governments, mandates. These were outside of the terms of reference. Vaccine safety, vaccine efficacy, all these things were outside of the terms of reference. That phase 1 inquiry is a true whitewash that was there to pat Labor on the back. We did such a good job. So they basically left out of the terms of reference all of these things that could not be discussed. So they couldn't be brought up. They couldn't be discussed. The phase 2 inquiry is supposed to discuss all those things. But as of yesterday, I was writing to them going, when are you going to open public submissions? Because they're supposed to do it early, January. And no public submissions open yet on it. So, but they told me yesterday that they are opening it soon. So people need to go there and have their say. And this time those things are inside the terms of reference. And I think Medical Council clean out is number 1. Reinstate all the doctors who had their licences taken off them for criticising, with their only crime being criticising the vaccine. Look at the protocols that have worked. Make some decisions. Yes, ivermectin can be given in early stages because you know what? It's worked, and it works. So yes. And then the vaccine injured to be recognised. So, get them recognised, get them on a register, look at, study them, put them inside a study. The thing is they've done a study. They've done a study on pericarditis and myocarditis. And inside that study it said that most people were still suffering symptoms 90 days later, I think it was. So they know that this is not, it's not a anaphylactic reaction like people have a shot in the arm and you curl over and you get one of those jabs that you get for bee stings and all that stuff. It's not that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Yes, there were those kind of reactions. The reactions to this gene therapy is permanent damage. We've got a heap of people with permanent or very long-term damage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's those are some of the things that we need.
Yeah, I think I kind of picked up the same vibe. This whole COVID inquiry phase 1 was all about, we could have done better in keeping people in the lockdown so they wouldn't have got angry with us and, we could have done this. It's like, well, What?
No.
This is what, way off. Who is the commissioner that was leading this?
Tony.
Blakely?
Yes, Tony Blakely. Now, I thought actually that, and I haven't read the entirety, but I've read the summary, and I thought it was far more critical than I thought it was going to be, because he knew at that stage that phase 2 was coming. Now, he'd worked for Melbourne University. He had conflicts of interest. He'd been an advisor to governments. He'd been advising Dan Andrews, who was another Nazi person in the way he treated his people in Melbourne.
Oh, yes.
And so it's kind of like he had conflicts of interest to be even on that inquiry, and he knows what's coming in phase 2. He knows that phase 2 will tackle the vaccine injury. Grant Illingworth is the new guy, and I have had some short correspondence with him, and I feel he's a lawyer, and I feel that he will. I hope he's a King's Counsel. I hope that he will approach it like a lawyer.
He's
and look at the
new
evidence.
commissioner.
He's the new commissioner
to lead phase 2.
To lead phase 2, and he's a legal man, and I feel that he will look at it like a lawyer. So he will look at it, the evidence before him, which is what we need. And there is so much evidence that shows how hurt people are, how many injured we've got. I hope that my hope to come out of that is recognition for the injured, and so that we can start to help people.
Who are the people that are contributing into the phase 2 that are part of what you believe in and your research and evidence? Would you make submissions to that?
Yeah, so I've my phase, the 1,600 pages that I did for my royal, because I had a petition for a Royal Commission of Inquiry into vaccine safety and efficacy. And the reason I did that is the phase 1 inquiry left vaccine safety and efficacy out of the terms of reference, right? So it couldn't be. So I did that. It got 23,000. Actually, it got 25,000 signatures, and then they kept disappearing. The signatures kept disappearing, and you couldn't search and you couldn't find my petition. There was all sorts of stuff that went on there that was very strange. And I did talk to petitions about it at the time, and they always had some excuse. Like, they removed 3,000 signatures overnight. At one stage, it reached over 25,000. All of a sudden, it was back to... And I went, how did that happen? How did 3,000... They went, oh, it was someone signing over and over again. I said, it can't be. You've got an IT rule in there that stops you from signing it twice. It is impossible to sign that petition twice. That excuse doesn't work. I know enough about IT to know if there's a rule there, it says that this ISP can only sign it once. It's not going to let you sign it a second time.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It goes to nowhere. It doesn't let you do it. So, and actually Kirsten Murfitt has had the same thing happen with her one asking for the Pfizer contract. She had the same thing, disappearing signatures. But anyway, part of that petition was the evidence. So what I did was I wrote to Grant Illingworth just before Christmas, and I said, Grant, I've just got this from Brooke Van Velden, which is her final report, and in her final report she says that phase 2 will be covering my concerns, or the concerns of those that signed my petition. I said, so I'd like to give you the links to my 1,600 pages, including all the Pfizer leaked contracts from around the world, what's in them, which is another thing that's really disturbing. And they all look the same, so no doubt our one is the same as everybody else's. And all of the Pfizer, as I said, all of the Pfizer documents they tried to keep secret, all of the vaccine injury stories, all of the OIAs, correspondence I had with television and media people that were telling me they couldn't tell vaccine stories because of groupthink, So it's kind of like, I said, here it all is. And he said, this is exactly the kind of, he wrote back and said, we're not open yet. We will be open in January, early in the year. And he said, but this is exactly the kind of evidence that we want to be looking at. So that's that. And then there'll be people like NZD, SOS, no doubt. Voices for Freedom have been doing, absolutely bloody marvellous work.
I had Alia B yesterday.
Sorry?
I had Alia B yesterday on my show.
Lovely, yeah. So that team does amazing work. And so, they've been teaching people how to do submissions, how to, giving them some templates and some ideas. And at the moment they're doing ones on the gene therapy bill. So they're having some great podcasts with different people on how to make a presentation, how to do it. Because a lot of people go to me, I don't know, I don't know how to do a submission. And I'm like, well, it's really simple. Just take a thing, have a quick read of the bill and see the things you don't like. Well, I'll point you out 2 things, right? You're not going to like medical mandates for a medicine that's not been invented yet, and you're not going to like emergency use authorisation, because that's how they got to jab this stuff into people when they hadn't been tested properly, was by emergency use authorisation, where they rule out anything that helps the disease so that they can actually get their emergency use. So you're not going to want that. So even if you just focus on those 2 things, I don't want those 2 things in it. Or we've got a great clean green image, in New Zealand. We've got a GE-free image. We've got GE-free councils throughout New Zealand. We want to remain GE-free. Our point of difference in the world is that we are GE-free and we can't be contaminated by borders. Yes, that's all very well, developing what you want to develop or what scientists, want to develop and make money, because that's the National Party's drive behind this, is that it'll bring us into the 21st century with gene technology. Well, no. All of a sudden, you've seen the backlash over the stuff they're putting in milk. People just not buying that milk on the shelf. They're just not buying it because it's like, it's going to, what is it, the cow farting stuff that they're putting in cow food. They don't know what the long-term stuffs of that is inside meat. They don't know that. So, so this, and we're not having that. Fonterra has declared it's not using that. So it's like, you're going to ruin all our exports, ruin our status as a GE country for money, and while you're at it, you're going to sneak in mandates and you're going to sneak in emergency use authorisation for gene technology that's not been invented yet, So Voices for Freedom are doing lots on that to explain people. But, even if you just get a sheet of paper, people, and just go, I don't want mandates and I don't want you to do this. That's all you need to do. A paragraph is still a submission.
Yeah.
And you just click it, and that's my submission. I'm against this bill. So you click against, you say I'm against this bill, and this is the bits I don't like. There's 2 sections of a submission. I'm for or against the bill, and here is why, and this is the bit I'd like to change. Well, please, if you're doing the submission, ask them to remove mandates and remove emergency use authorisation from that bill. We don't want it in that bill at all. Because then they can just do the next mRNA thing and force everybody to take it, and we'll be back where we were when they were mandating.
Yeah. And you've got a petition with you today?
Oh, yeah. So I've got a nice little, you might like to sign this actually.
Oh, yeah.
So this is actually the petition of Kirsten Murfitt. So this is a bit of a different one. I'll talk to, people can go and have a look at that at whoknows.co.nz.
Yeah.
She's worked very hard on this because it's not an ordinary petition. Now, we're used to petitions, we go and sign them online. Mm-hmm. This is a petition for a citizens-initiated referendum. Mm-hmm. That's that thing when you go to the polling booth and you go, I vote for whoever I vote for, and then we've got a referendum down here. Do you want this? Last time it was the cannabis bill. Mm. Yeah, I want cannabis legalised.
Which I was disappointed that it did not go through.
So close.
I like my weed.
Yeah, same. Anyway, so well, I like that. Like, cannabis is an amazing medicine. That's another whole conversation for another day. You should probably have with an expert.
And I only
on
smoke in legal jurisdictions, by the way.
Yeah.
California.
Well, you can get prescription now.
Yeah, can
in
you?
New Zealand. Yep. Have you got a problem?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I got problems.
I got problems. Cannabis Clinic New Zealand. So if you've got problems, you get a doctor's appointment and you can have a little bag of weed. And that little bag of weed actually comes in from overseas because apparently we don't have the machines to do whatever they do to it. So it's,
what kind of problems I should have?
Oh, pain, depression.
My back hurts all the time. I'm depressed.
My back hurts.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's you can actually get a prescription in New Zealand now, and you go through a process of doing a consultation. It's all proper.
Okay.
So we'll go back to the petition. So that's whoknows.co.nz, and it's the citizens initiated referendum. So the difference is that if you want to help out people, you have to go and print out a physical sheet because it can't be done online. It needs to be 400,000 signatures.
Wow.
Now, the beautiful side is if you're paranoid about giving out your email and your phone number, it doesn't have to go on here. It doesn't even ask you for your email and phone number. What it wants is your name and your address of where you are on the electoral roll, because they go through and they go, yes, that's on the electoral roll. Yes, that person's on the electoral roll. That's to prove that you're on the electoral roll.
What's that petition for?
So this petition is a citizens-initiated referendum for leaving the World Health Organization, which is exactly what Donald Trump has just done. Although he calls it on being a financial thing, it's also not serving the interests really of the world. And they wanted, through the pandemic treaty, and I don't know where we are quite with that, and Ashley Bloomfield was ensconced in that, they wanted to be able to control us. So next pandemic, it doesn't matter what our laws are. They'll go, you're mandated, you've all got to have it. The World Health Organization says so.
Yeah, that's
we've signed the pandemic treaty. That is like taking our sovereignty away. You do not want an unelected bunch of people who are now primarily funded by the Chinese to dictate to you what's going to be forced into your body.
It's a shame that we need a referendum for that stuff. We elect the members to represent us, and then they take our sovereignty, they sell it to some other people overseas who then tell us what to do. That's not how this works.
Yeah, well, this has
Let me sign it.
Guts. Yeah, here we go. Have a pen and sign it. So you don't have to give your email address. You don't have to give your phone number. You just have to sign it, give your first name and last name and your address that's on the electoral roll, because what they do is they check every address. But she has to get 400,000 signatures. So if people go to whoknows.co.nz, you can download it. That's what I've done here. And I'm off on my travels at the moment, so I've downloaded a few pages, which I'm taking with me. And then when you finished, it gives you the instructions on the website of how to send it to Kirsten. And she's collecting those now over the coming months. And so we really want to get as many signatures as we can, and you can help. So even like if you go and you get it and you get it from the website, then you can just print off one or two, get your family to sign it, get your friends. When you're sitting down, you're having a conversation and someone goes, yeah, I didn't know what happened during the COVID thing. Well, you do know the World Health Organization are the ones that are actually pushing our governments with that. The way to do that is remove ourselves from them, just like President Trump has done in the United States. We need a referendum to make to put this before. And what it does is it actually, when you're having that conversation, you're enlightening people, because then when it goes to the referendum, we need to get enough of the public to vote to leave.
Yeah, this World Health Organization pandemic treaty is very concerning to me.
Oh,
because it's none of anyone's business about how we conduct our health. I think whatever, it's okay for such organizations to make recommendations, provide research, whatever it is that they do and why they exist and all that stuff, I'm not one of those guys like, I'm an anti-globalist. It's like, okay, you have a role, you do stuff, okay, but it's none of anyone's business to be saying this is what you must be doing.
Yeah.
And that's what exactly happened without even having a pandemic treaty. Well, they were telling Ashley Bloomfield that this is what you should be pushing.
Yeah.
And then and the Prime Minister at that time, she was saying, well, whatever you say goes. And that's not how you run a country.
And the pandemic treaty was so much more, because that's actually, the World Health Organization are an unelected bunch of officials. So they are unelected. They're not elected by anybody.
And then
then they want to dictate our law.
Yeah, and
our citizens.
They were engaging in censorship of other scientists and doctors on social media and in government settings. If you're a government, you should listen to Ashley Bloomfield and you should listen to everybody else that are against it. Yeah. If you're going to stand up and say, well, we are taking a scientific approach and we're going to listen to the scientists who say what we should be doing. They're saying you should be taking the vaccine and you should be not doing this and that. Well, I think there has to be scientists that say against those advice, and they have different approaches to these things. Yeah. So that's the problem is, coming together as a team of 5 million people and, looking after each other, all of that stuff is well and good, but that should also happen without the iron fist, and everybody can have different thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, let's not pretend it wasn't.
Yeah, and she was on stage saying things like, if you haven't heard it from my government, it's not true. I'm your single source of the truth. So what?
Somebody else in history.
What have you been reading, George Orwell, 1984?
Yeah.
The whole idea of that book is not to do exactly what he's
Yeah.
written not to do, and you're doubling down. And that's the problem with power. If power is unchecked, it gets abused. And this is the problem with something like the WHO's treaty for taking our sovereignty to tell us what they think we should be doing in the next pandemic. And that's why, I'm appalled that I have to sign a petition to take it out. I think that my vote is enough for you to, my expectation is that you conduct yourself with the highest standard.
Yeah. No, it's just like we can't have unelected officials in another country, now primarily funded by China, telling us what our laws are. Our laws are to be made by us. And what we should do is, from this, is learn to actually clean out these agencies and make sure there's no revolving door between pharmaceutical companies and the Medical Council, between pharmaceutical companies and MedSafe. Like, we need really independent bodies to make decisions for New Zealanders, not based on what somebody else says, but based on their own research, and they didn't do any research. They didn't do anything. And, the World Health Organization, that's why we need to be aside from that, really. They're not doing their purpose anymore. And, the same's being said of the United Nations as well. Trump actually said that in the speech the other day about the United Nations and how important the representative was to the United Nations, because it's not carrying out its job anymore. And again, that's a bunch of officials that are sent in. The World Economic Forum, I think, is beginning to come to a demise, and I think it will come to a demise in the end. And it's, another bunch of unelected officials deciding what countries are going to do and training leaders and then trying to get those leaders in, which is exactly, we need to look out for that. We need to look out for people who've been, involved in the World Economic Forum. Now, interesting, our Prime Minister, I recall him during the campaign trail, someone said, what's your view of the WEF, Mr. Lux? And he said, what's that? What a lying sack of shit. He actually went there as the CEO of Air New Zealand. What a lying sack of shit.
Yeah.
He actually said, I don't know what that is. He's a liar. He wasn't a global, young global leader like Jacinda Ardern and Trudeau were, but he's been. And then to say he doesn't know what it is, that's how gullible they think New Zealanders are.
Yeah.
They think they're so gullible that they won't believe that, and it's like, dude, you've got a history, dude, you were the CEO of Air New Zealand. We can look these things up. You lied during your campaign trail. So it's like, now people are kind of jumping up and down because they thought he was going to be their saviour. Well, I'm sorry. My friend Donna Bokeri Phillips, who was who was in the outdoors party, she used to say it's the left and right cheek of the nunu. Your butt. It's like, it's like the left and right cheek of the same ass, basically. and I can say those words on here because I can get away with that.
Yeah.
Because that's me. I don't pull any punches. But yeah, they are the left and right wing of the same, same vulture.
Same
Left
asshole.
Same, or the left and right cheek of the same nunu. Yeah. So I thought her description was always the best.
Yeah.
Because there's not really much difference between the two major parties, and so I think New Zealanders too need to look at smaller parties and look at getting more formation in there of smaller parties having a say.
I agree.
If we don't even have a. If we had someone like Sue Gray in Parliament, like, who has a science degree and a law degree, absolutely giving them snot every time they go to do something.
Yeah, there
we
needs
don't
to be
even have a
independent and small
what's his
people.
Name? Rennick, over in Australia, we don't have a Rennick, or the Babbitt is another one in Australia. They've got senators over there that are speaking out. We don't have anyone speaking out.
Yeah.
I think what's her name from New Zealand First fluffed in there once. She was the second person in Parliament to mention vaccine safety and efficacy, guess who the first one was to have it mentioned?
Who?
Me.
Wow.
When they stood up in Parliament and they went, the petition of Aly Cook for safety and efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccine. That was the first time safety and efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccine has been uttered inside that building.
That's crazy.
The second time was Tanya Unkovich, and then they all sat there and booed her and, dismissed her.
She seems to be onto it.
At least she's mentioned it, but she's not near as, she's still, she's still under Winston Peters, but she's nothing like Senator Rennick who are over there.
Yeah, you're right. I think.
Excuse me, MedSafe. Can you answer me this question? Here's this OIA. You said this to this on this person on this day. What have you got to say about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we could do with smaller parties being in Parliament.
Some strong, outspoken
outliers. I think we can also achieve that by having a smaller Parliament.
Yeah,
and we can, and once we do that, we can then create maybe like a Senate. Yes, we are a bit small compared to like Canada and the,
a lower threshold.
But we need something that sits outside.
You have to get to 5% to get a party in, which is a massive thing.
Yeah,
like I know now with the outdoors party, we've been going for over 10 years. And we've got up to 2% now. We just poll before last, we just overtook top. So it's taken a long time to get there. Perhaps we did some things last election that we probably shouldn't have done. We had the right reasoning for it, which was we wanted to bring the freedom movement together, but we went with Brian, which was a step too far for too many people. Like personally.
Brian who?
Tamaki.
Right.
So that was a step too far for some people. Because what we tried to do was we were trying to bring unity of all the parties together so that it would bring the entire freedom movement, so everybody that went to Wellington would put their vote one way, you know what I mean? And we'd get a few people in there. But in that process, some dropped out and we ended up with Brian. And I really like Brian. I really like Brian and Hannah.
Yeah,
they're great people.
Seems fine,
I don't necessarily share all their philosophies, but without him making the protests happen, there wouldn't have been any protests, So I see the good side of him, but some people can't stomach him or don't like him, and so we've pulled back now to just being us, and I think we're just going to stay with being us.
He's doing well with the state of X right now.
Yeah.
On X, he's starting to get a lot of momentum, and there is a shift in what mainstream is.
Yeah.
What conversations are being had on mainstream, and the stuff he says on X, I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, just naturally, everybody who lives in a healthy environment disagrees with everybody about lots of different things, but that doesn't mean, they're not nice people or whatnot. And I think the issue really is the fact that we have this centralization of power in one place, which is the Parliament. And the problem with centralization is you create a one voice kind of thing, and the big voices dominate and they control it, and you don't hear much stuff that comes out that's diverse. So if we decentralize that power, let's say there is a Senate, or there's a Congress, or there is a...
Yes, because one's the backstop for the other with the Senate, and one is a check and balance.
Yeah,
we've got no check and balance.
That's right. I mean, how does it make sense for someone like a losing party like the Labour Party to have lost its vote in elections, then end up in Parliament that controls all the power to have so many seats to dictate how bills and legislations are passed? It is like saying Trump defeated Kamala, but Kamala will still sit at the White House and dictate and approve what Trump says and what goes. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
That's bizarre. Like, why would you function that way? Because you're not an elected member. You sit in the opposition. And yes, there's a role for that, but you shouldn't be sitting in Parliament that has all the power for you to approve what bill goes, what legislation goes.
Yeah, I think we could definitely look at the system for sure, and for the way it works to improve it, to get more voices in there, because that's the one thing we've not had enough voices, and we've not had enough voices that
and this
that are on
argument
the
that we're
opposite
not
side of a narrative.
and
like,
this argument that we're not big enough and that's why we don't have all these different things is false, because you need those different things when you are small.
yeah,
It
that's
works
right.
better when you're
That's
small.
right. You do. You
know?
do. Yeah. There's a lot that can change. But I think the overall message I want to leave from here is that no matter who you are, you can actually take part. And the more you take part, the better. Because I often hear that from people. There's a lot of people who've got no trust of the system. They won't vote. They don't vote because they don't believe in the system. They won't sign a petition because they don't think it will help, because they've actually lost hope that anything can do anything to change. But you know what? You can if you become a movement. If you become a movement, we are the many and they are the few. And they work for us, and we should never forget that and never let them forget that.
That's right.
And so no matter who small you are, you know, I'm the little musician who likes to garden down in the South Island, and they hurt my son.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's my driving force. But I would have still been fighting this anyway, whether he was hurt or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, because it's just not right. What's happened is just not right. And I guess
think
it's
so.
my Libra self or something. I have a
think
feeling
so.
of justice, and
Yeah,
my
get
scales
involved.
are off on this.
Yeah, get involved and take an interest, and don't, you know, like I used to be one of those guys that I was very much disinterested in politics for many reasons, and did not align with me. But I think I have come out of that, and I still go through phases. You know, I used to be a National Party voter for the last 14, 15 years, and I've come out and said I'm never going to vote for National Party ever again.
Yeah.
But I actually am right now. I don't think I would be voting for anybody.
It's hard.
You know, it's like I'm not interested in engaging in the system.
That's where people
so it's very
need
difficult.
to look for the smaller people.
That's right,
Give the smaller, if you're going to throw it away, give the smaller person a vote. I mean, some people do that. Used to do that, I heard, with the Cannabis Party. I got, you know, like, I'm not voting for any of that. I'll give it to the Cannabis Party. You know what? If enough people do that, all of a sudden we'd have some, you know, voices. And this is the same for like the Outdoors Party. Like, and that's the difference, I guess, with us and some of the other indies that have appeared. For Sue Gray and myself and the board members that I work with, we're not just there for the election. We're doing submissions to Parliament. We spend hours doing submissions to Parliament, setting up petitions, going in there and fighting the fight. Sue going into council chambers and fighting them over, you know, fluoride. I'm hounding them with OIAs. You know, like we're, you know, and the same with our other board members as well. So we work all the time against this narrative. And so once a year it comes up for election, but the rest of the year we're doing the work. We're actually, I mean, I would say doing the mahi, but actually Ashley Bloomfield's completely put me off that Māori word, which I would have been happy to actually use, but it's like the mahi, it's like, it's like it's a trigger word for me now, because it's like, you know,
fair enough.
That's what it does to me. But that's what I think is everybody can play a part, just a little part, you know, because until the mandates came along and the jab, we didn't know what a government could cruelly do to us. You come from an Arab country, you know fully what a government gone rogue can actually do, what a totalitarian, you know what that is coming from other parts of the world. And New Zealanders got a wee taste of what that's like when they go, we're going to take your job away if you don't do that. What do you mean? I've worked here for 30 years, I'm their best worker. I'm going to take your job away if you don't inject yourself with this thing that we've just invented. You know, that's what they can actually do if you do nothing. Don't be the person that does nothing. Do something. Even if it's a line, even if it's a signature on a petition, do something. Because if you actually stand there and do nothing, they're going to do this again.
Yeah. And I think this is a good place to end this episode. It's been amazing.
It has been amazing. It's been a great chat. Thank you for signing the petition.
No, you're welcome. Please quickly tell us your socials and where people can find important information about your work and things that you want them to partake.
Yeah, so just if you want to find me, probably at Kiwi Aly is my best one on X. Is at Kiwi Aly. Come find me on X because that's where we can have open discussion and conversations.
Yeah.
I do have a music page on Facebook, but that doesn't matter. It's more my work here.
Yeah.
So
Are you touring at the moment?
Yes, I am. I'm about to head out of here and going down south, and I'm doing playing Upper Hutt Cosy and Otaki RSA and
Wow.
New Plymouth over the weekend with Sisters in Country, which is my little country act. So
Wow.
that's kind
That's
of cool.
awesome.
Yeah, and I played a festival last weekend, so I'm still getting out there, and I still do promotions and marketing as well for independent artists. So I have a full-time marketing business here in Australia. So yeah, and then the rest of the time I'm fighting the good fight,
Good on
as
you.
we call it.
Well, thanks so much for coming in.